from Catherine?
Well, I think it shows that there was a fair amount of potential corruption in the Justice Department. As a former official, it grieves me to see what was going on, how politicized people were being. For example, if you had a high-level DOJ official like a Bruce Ohr who's heavily involved in law enforcement and counterintelligence investigations, whose wife is working for a political intelligence outfit being paid for by the Democrats, at the very least, he should have nothing to do with anything that involves his wife's firm, regardless of whether she's taking spousal immunity, regardless of who's taking the fifth. It's just common sense that no Justice Department official should be involved in anything involving his or her spouse's work.
Wait, I mean, let me stop you right there and ask you. I mean, is that the practice, and is that what is expected? Because I have heard those on the other side make the defense, you can't punish someone for what their spouse does. That's not fair. There's lots of people who live in Washington, and they have both parties working, and it may overlap. And you're saying that it would be within the Justice Department, they would say, or the FBI, you cannot have anything to do with this because your wife's involved on the other side.
Oh, yes. It's not just common sense. These are the conflict of interest rules. We're not talking about punishing couples who both of whom are working in Washington, D.C. No one's saying Mrs. Ohr has to quit her job or Mr. Ohr has to quit his job. There's plenty of things at the Justice Department to do. There's a lot of bad guys to go out and catch. Why isn't Bruce Ohr just working on other cases? He doesn't have to be involved with Fusion GPS or anything like that. Just hand it off to some other impartial official who doesn't have to be married to the people who have been hired by the Clinton campaign to feed political intelligence.
So what if then he was the back channel into the FBI? Because that's the way it's been characterized by some who say that they have privy into the records, that here, this was all largely discredited, that Fusion had been shopping it around to a bunch of different people, that no one really took it as credible, and that it took Bruce Ohr back channeling it back into the FBI, that he was working this work product from a place where his wife was being paid and was working, that it took that in order to get it in. I mean, then what does that mean? Is there a punishment for that?
Exactly. That's for example, that is exactly why he should have recused himself, because no matter what the merits of looking into the dossier might or might not be, of course we want to see all of it declassified, as well as the FISA warrants that were built upon it. No matter what he did, it's going to look questionable because of the chain of events that you just laid out and the connections that you've described. I think it's very close, if not, we're not over the line, I think, at this point, where there ought to be an independent counsel or a special counsel appointed to look into all of this, because, as you say, the appearance is that the Clinton campaign paid the wife of a Justice Department official to feed discredited information, and because of it, a highly classified as anti-espionage warrant was used, which is only supposed to use in very special cases, to surveil the presidential campaign of the opposing party. That just looks terrible. That's exactly why there ought to be not just a congressional investigation. What you're talking about are hearings and so on, but there might have to be a criminal investigation by a Justice Department prosecutor.
By Justice Department, though, and they're involved, so that makes it all the more dicey. John Yoo, thank you for your time.
Nellie Ohr only telling part of her story today on Capitol Hill. House Republicans say they never had the opportunity to question her about how and why her husband, DOJ official Bruce Ohr, passed an anti-Trump fraudulent dossier to the FBI in the 2016 presidential election. That's because Nellie Ohr invoked spousal privilege that protects a couple's private communications. My guest tonight, present for today's 5-hour closed-door hearing with Nellie Ohr, and we are joined now by Congressman Matt Gaetz, joining us, a member of the House Judiciary Committee. Great to have you with us, Congressman.
Good to be with you, Lou.
5 hours, was it worth it?
Today we did not get a lot of new information. Nellie Ohr frequently invoked the spousal privilege, and what was troubling to me is that it wasn't merely that Nellie Ohr wouldn't tell us the substance of her communications with her husband. She would not tell us whether conversations even occurred regarding the subject. Now, what should concern all Americans, Lou, is the notion that if you hire the right government official's spouse, that you get some sort of special treatment, that you get your information to receive some sort of priority that it otherwise wouldn't. And we received testimony just yesterday from the former general counsel to the FBI that it was very unusual that he had Bruce Ohr, the husband of Nellie Ohr, the husband of the person that Fusion GPS had hired to smear President Trump, that you had the very spouse of that individual shuttling information to the general counsel of the FBI and trying to make political dirt look like a legitimate basis to start an investigation. That is what is so corrupt, and that's what we've got to expose.
There's something else I'd like you to help me understand and the audience, and that's why Rod Rosenstein will go to the Hill next week and will only be questioned by the chairman of House Oversight and Judiciary and the ranking Democratic members, the two ranking members of those two committees. I mean, that is, to me, infuriating because both chairmen, Trey Gowdy and Bob Goodlatte, are retiring. They have never accomplished a single damn thing in their careers, and every investigation they have led has resulted in zero. Am I wrong?
Lou, this is a bunch of crap. You can't have a circumstance where some of the most important facts that the American people need to know about whether the person running the frickin' Justice Department was trying to wear a wire on the president and actually organize cabinet officials to unseat Donald Trump. We're not going to put him under oath in front of the American people. We're not going to have all of the committee members question his motives, his actions, how he was understood by his colleagues. This is the way you behave if you don't really want to know the truth. You take Rod Rosenstein and you throw him in a secret room with two Democrats and two retiring Republicans who won't even be around for any sake of continuity in a few months. And then you just say, case closed, it's all over, we've got our answers. And by the way, Lou, that then becomes a basis for Rod Rosenstein not to come back. Because then he could say, well, I was already there in a classified setting. So this is, in my fear, is that you've got Republicans and Democrats working together to slow roll our oversight, and the American people know what's going on. You know what's going on. It's garbage because they don't really want to know what happened.
Yeah, and congratulations to your lame duck rhino speaker, Paul Ryan, who as usual is sucking up establishment swamp water. Congressman Matt Gaetz will not be there for that questioning. Neither will Congressman Jim Jordan and Mark Meadows, and the list goes on. Well,
that's who you want to keep out, Lou. If you were trying to stop the truth from coming out, you wouldn't want Jim Jordan, Mark Meadows, Matt Gaetz, Andy Biggs, and others there. You would want it to be a small group.
Absolutely. And somehow, some coward let it happen. I'm sorry to be so direct about that, but you know, you sort of set the standard with your candor. As always, we appreciate it, Congressman Matt Gaetz. Thanks so much.
Hey, Matt, great to see you. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Liz.
What will the reaction be of voters at the poll to all this mayhem?
I don't think they like it. Look, I think Americans are okay with big, vigorous political disagreements, but I think there are lines that can get crossed. And I think the idea that you have Hillary Clinton and Eric Holder, the former chief law enforcement officer of the United States, basically saying it's okay to kick people, Hillary Clinton saying that Republicans don't deserve respect, I think that's a big mistake. And I think I'd hate to see violence in the streets, but you know, we should all be careful with our words.
It's a great point you make, Matt, and we have not seen this phenomenon more than 10 years ago. We didn't see it. It started in 2008 with Barack Obama, Matt. Remember, he was the first to encourage in-your-face harassment when he was first running 10 years ago. He said to his supporters, quote, "I want you to talk to them whether they are independent or whether they are Republican. I want you to argue with them and get in their face." I mean, Matt, is this who the Democrats really want to be?
Yeah, and the sad thing is Steve Scalise obviously was shot. There was terror on that ball field. You know, there are people out there that will take steps towards violence. And I think that, look, what I would like to see from these Democrats is somebody condemning what Hillary Clinton said, what Eric Holder said. obviously what you just said, what Barack Obama said. Every Democrat should be able to say, I hope they didn't mean those words. If they did, they should take them back. You know, even Michelle Obama said that what Eric Holder said was too far. I'd like to see other Democrats do it. Where's Elizabeth Warren? Where's Cory Booker? Where's Kamala Harris? Have they criticized any of these statements? I've seen silence.
You know, problem is people, to your point, Matt, people don't need encouragement to act uncivilly or even violently. You know, Matt, elections are won in the center. To your point, ordinary Americans don't like this. It makes them feel unsafe.
No. I don't like it. I don't think it's American. Our First Amendment is about our political speech, our ability to speak, and I don't think that should be infringed in any way. But when you start violating somebody's personal space and when you start shoving and pushing around and making threats, it's too far. And I think the Republicans are going to be the beneficiary of what started all this with this Kavanaugh hearings and that unfair process, and I think it's going to accrue to the Republicans' benefit.
The criticism of President Trump's rhetoric, your take on that?
Look, I think Ben Jacobs is a perfectly fine reporter. I think what was done to him was criminal, unlawful, and reporters shouldn't be threatened, and they shouldn't be harmed either. I think that's well over the line, and I think I know the president likes to have some fun with these things, but I think that was an example where it's too far. I think we should respect members of the media, even though sometimes I'd like to throttle them. I don't think people should throttle them, and I'm not going to throttle them. Let's keep our disagreements just on the rhetoric.
Matt Schlapp, you're always great. Come back soon. We love having you on.
The devastation, damage that is down in the Panhandle in Florida, all these people have been displaced. The Panhandle usually determines the Panhandle in Southwest Florida being Sarasota, Fort Myers, Naples, Florida. I mean, they play such a big role in Florida's voting, as well as the I-4 corridor. You know, Tampa, Orlando, everywhere in between. And because, of course, then you have Palm Beach County, which, you know, dimpled, pimpled, you know, hanging, swinging, shattered, just chads, if you remember back to that point. If you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry, you don't need to know. That was the 2000 election. It went on forever. There, you'd see these guys with their, what do you call those, what do you call, not microscope, magnifying glass, looking, well, was that really a vote for Buchanan? That was it at the time. As I look at the Senate, I'm worried about Indiana because you got a libertarian that is siphoning votes away from the Republican. By the way, he's going to join us on Hannity tonight. And you take the libertarian component out of the polls, and Joe Donnelly's toast in Indiana. You can't waste your vote on the libertarian, and I'm not trying to be rude. I love libertarians. I have libertarian positions. But the reality is they're not drawing any votes away from Donnelly. They're drawing him away from his Republican opponent. I think Heidi Heitkamp deserves to be sent packing, and hopefully will. John Tester can be beaten in Montana. Trust, I'm telling you, I'm looking at the numbers. Rick Scott can win in Florida. It's way too tight for comfort. You cannot elect Gillum in Florida as your governor. You will destroy the Florida economy. Marsha Blackburn will be a phenomenal. She's an honest person, unlike that phony, that fake, that fraud Bredesen. Same with Claire McCaskill. What a phony she is. And, of course, you've got the radical in Arizona Cinema. Oh, my gosh. Anything else we're going to learn about her? Hanging out with radical lawyers to defend the blind sheikh, inviting them. You know, oh, it's okay to join the Taliban. No problem. What? Oh, and Arizona's a crazy. By the way, Dean Heller's a very important race. He needs support in Nevada. We'll continue. All right, 25 now till the top of the hour. 800-941-SEAN, toll-free telephone number. We're on the road. We'll be in Houston, Texas tomorrow, 11 a.m. We're hoping that you will have the opportunity to get out and join us as we're going to be in Houston at a town hall. I'll be interviewing Rick Perry and Ted Cruz, and I'm actually going to be part of the town hall, too, which is fun. 11 a.m., Doubletree, Greenway Plaza. All the details are on Hannity.com, a Beaumont town hall at 3:30, Beaumont, Texas, at Edison Plaza. TedCruz.com has their organization. I guess you need tickets for this thing. I don't know. I think it's all free, which is good. They're just town halls. And anyway, I hope I can see you in Houston at 11 o'clock tomorrow and Beaumont at 3:30 tomorrow. Look forward to seeing our friends down there. Maybe big-time AJ from Houston will show up. Hoping that happens. That'll make my month. So we have a Washington Examiner report. Looks like the wave of Democratic violence and mobs is now getting close to home where I live. Long Island man arrested for threatening to kill 2 senators over the support of Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation to the Supreme Court. Man identified as Ronald DeRicey of Smithtown, Long Island, left more than 10 threatening voicemails at the offices of 2 senators who were not identified, according to the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of New York. It's about time we hold some people responsible. Remember all the times we have these uprisings, looting, rioting? Remember what happened in Ferguson, Baltimore? You know what we never do? We never follow up. We have all the videotape of everybody that's in there looting. We see they don't have a mask on. You know, we see their faces. We know, we can find out who they are. We never follow up. I mean, if somebody's willing to threaten to kill a politician, I don't care if it's a Republican or Democrat, they need to be arrested and put in jail. You're not allowed to make threats. And told all conservative groups, you do no good to the conservative movement, none. If you're on tape acting like a lunatic, if you're out there causing violence, leave your hands in your pocket. Keep your hands to yourself. You want to win, you can go out there in 18 days and cast your vote. That's how our system works. Unlike Michael Moore. Who's the latest one? Oh, Rosie O'Donnell. We have Rosie O'Donnell? I mean, just following in the footsteps of Michael Moore and Alec Baldwin.
Came into office and did all the things that you probably knew about him.
Right. When he was elected, what I wrote on Twitter was we should impose martial law till we make sure that the Russians weren't involved in the final tallies of the votes.
And Bob Mueller has indicted 13 Russians for election meddling.
And people were like, martial law, what's wrong with you? You're a lunatic.
Well, he wants to send the military to the border, so.
I want to send the military to the White House to get him. That's what I
want. You're yucking it up there on NBC News. Tom Brokaw, you proud of your network? Are you proud of NBC News, what it's become? This is extraordinarily dangerous. As you can see, the violence, the mobs ramping up violence as Election Day nears. We got Investors Business Daily. They've noticed the Democratic Party keep ramping up their rhetoric. You know, Maxine Waters, get a crowd, get your friends, you follow them. You follow them into grocery stores, department stores, gas stations, and you tell them they don't want it anywhere anymore. You know, get in their face, Cory Booker says. Kick them, Eric Holder says.
You
can't be civil. I don't want to play
a political.
Hillary Clinton, don't be civil. That's the environment they're creating. And you got, this was my favorite. This was Time Magazine, New York Times. Their magazine, just when you thought the left-wing nuts couldn't get any nuttier, magazine reporting a bunch of Trump-hating nut jobs in Brooklyn, New York, have turned to witchcraft in an effort to remove Brett Kavanaugh from the Supreme Court. What is it with the Democratic Party now and witches? Washington Examiner pointing out that Kristen Sinema in Arizona, on top of, her saying it's fine to join the Taliban and while her opponent was fighting that war, Martha McSally rightly asking for an apology. The same woman calling the meth capital of the world and people of Arizona crazy. That same woman, a radical leftist, inviting the Blind Sheikh's radical attorney accused of taking messages from the Blind Sheikh to supporters that are also violent. I remember that case well. Andy McCarthy prosecuted that case. Anyway, a bookstore in Brooklyn is holding a public event to put a hex. They use witchcraft against Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. It's happening next Saturday night. If we have any witches in the audience, there you go. There's your opportunity. Larry Sabato, House Democrats are close to winning control of the House, he says, but the latest University of Virginia analysis shows the race is not a done deal. This is now, I would take this as you better listen, or you're going to wake up in 19 days or watch TV in 18 days and see Nancy Pelosi's your speaker. He says a race-by-race analysis of Democratic House target shows the party's close to winning the majority, but they don't have it put away in our judgment, said Kyle Kondik, is the managing editor of Sabato's Crystal Ball. In fact, district-by-district reviews show that the Democrats, in a worst-case scenario,